Hey, welcome into Husker247 Daily. Getting to you a little late this morning. We apologize, but getting to you nevertheless. I'm Mike Schaefer, joined by Michael Brunts, and we are going to talk about Nebraska, Minnesota coming up on Friday. Friday game, which is a little bit different. Short week for Nebraska. They feel confident that they can handle it. One of the reasons that they feel confident, Emmett Johnson playing some very, very good football. And this is would you call it an Emmett Johnson revenge game, Michael Brunts? Do you think there's vengeance being sought here after being ignored as the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Minnesota, but couldn't get an offer from PJ Fleck?
I think there's probably part of that. I think he feels maybe a little bit slighted. I don't know if it's like a Michael Jordan like chip on your shoulder type thing where you're kind of creating things to be upset about. But
Well, I don't know that he had to invent any reasons like Michael Jordan famously would. There seems to be at least one reason.
yeah, well, I mean, I don't think it's a LeBradford Smith situation, but I do think playing in front of your home crowd, playing well. I mean, I think he wants to maybe show off a little bit and show what Minnesota might have overlooked a little bit. So I don't know. It's the running game is fascinating in this one. Just when you kind of look at what Purdue was able to do against Minnesota's defense last week, like it feels like there's an opportunity there for Nebraska to do some things on the ground if they're willing to stick with it. Like I think they were outgained. What was it, 200 yards? Yeah,
Yeah,
200 yards, and it really
they had like
wasn't.
28 yards rushing to 280. It was more than just 200 yards. Like
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
a substantial amount.
yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to diverge there, but yeah, Emmett Johnson, I think, is going to be very motivated in this one.
Yeah, are you at all concerned because he's coming off of like 1 day less rest, and then they obviously had to rely on him, and it was a physical performance for him out in Maryland where he had to churn through a lot of bodies to pile up some of the yards. Obviously, ran for more than 170, had nearly 200 yards of a all-purpose offense. Just a tremendous effort from him. But one less day to kind of let the body rest and to prepare.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a huge factor. I mean, I think Nebraska can maybe pick some spots to give him a blow every once in a while with Mosey or Nelson or whoever they're going to have in that second role. Looking at his carries, I mean, he only carried the ball 13 times against Michigan State. Like, I guess it felt like he was more involved as a runner in that game than what he actually was. So maybe that's working in Nebraska's favor a little bit there. But I think he'll be fine. I mean, it's you've got palatial recovery pools and everything else over there at the stadium. I think he'll be fine.
I mean, they did invest all that money in recovery, so it's time for it to be put to work.
What do you think Nebraska did they do anything differently with him in this game? Because it feels like to this point, like Emmett's shown off a pretty wide range of like like he's made guys miss in the backfield when he's had to. He's kind of gotten to the second level and started to put together some longer runs. He's been a receiver with consistency. Like, what do you need to see more from him, or what can Nebraska do more to feature him, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know if maybe the Maryland game can be the start to something, but it's kind of like the first time where it felt like he had multiple of those runs where he got to the second level and then was able to sort of get through that into that kind of 10 to 15 yard range. I mean, I can't say that without a ton of I don't have a ton of backing on it. It just feels like very anecdotal of what I watched, but it felt like he was able to get into the second and third level a little bit more. Of course, he had the 50-yard run down the sidelines, but he also, there was a handful of times where it felt like the play was designed to go inside and he just knew the opening was out there and he ran, got the 12 yards for the first down, moved the chain. So I'm as curious about how Minnesota chooses to defend him. Do you just kind of load up and you're just like, we're not going to let Nebraska beat us with Emmett Johnson? We're going to make them pass their way through this game. Do they just say, okay, if you want to play a game with Emmett Johnson, we're going to try to take away your receivers as much as possible? In what way do you think, if you were Minnesota's defensive coordinator, how are you kind of preparing for Nebraska in this game?
Yeah, it's a tough one because, the last couple of games, Nebraska's also shown off I think a little bit more of big playability that you have to respect. I think
certainly more than the entirety of the 2023 and 2024 seasons.
yeah, but like the continued kind of development and whatever you want to call it of Isaiah Hunter, I think has kind of brought a nice dimension to the offense that they didn't have the first few games. So I don't know. I mean, I think that's the problem with Nebraska right now is if you get Emmett Johnson going, I mean, that's a pretty balanced offense. So if you're Minnesota, do you try to take the run away, force Dylan to win it with his arm? I mean, because I think what you don't want to do is you don't want Emmett kind of getting off to the start that he did against Maryland. Because on that first possession, it was like, okay, they're going to be able to run the ball here if they stick with it. And so I don't know. I mean, I think they can probably. I think Nebraska is going to be able to run the ball a little bit in this one too. So I think if you try to take away the run game, turn it into a throw game with Dylan, and hope that he has a couple of those turnovers or just kind of what the heck type throws that he had last week against Maryland.
We saw a little bit more of Isaiah Mosey in the Maryland game. Did it leave you wanting for even a little bit more exposure to Nebraska's freshman running back, wide receiver converted to running back? And it seemed like Nebraska didn't have a clear answer for who the number 2 running back is, but Mosey certainly had the best performance in conference play.
Are we at the point where it might not matter, like that we ever get an answer to that?
100% we are at that point.
Like, I'd like to see Mosey in there. I'd like to see, I forget which game it was. It was one of the non-conference games where it was, the game was long decided, but he was running really hard and looked really good in space.
Akron?
Is that who it was? I couldn't remember.
He had the one where he was catching the ball in the backfield or out of the backfield, and then like just doing spin moves and trucking through guys and things like that.
I'm eager to see more of him in space. I don't know if I'm like wanting to see more of him in the traditional handoff game, but I think he brings enough from a athletic standpoint that you can probably get a little bit creative with him. Here's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see more 2-back sets. I don't mind a good 2-back set, and I think that's where you can feature Johnson and Mosey as pass catchers too. I mean that feels like a really tough matchup for a defensive coordinator.
All right. Well, what else do we think Nebraska can try to accomplish offensively, on the ground? Do you think there's an opportunity we see a little bit more like a called run for Dylan? Or we saw it in the red zone. They had to play for Heinrich Harburg, and then unfortunately, I believe it was Carter Nelson just was unable to block that up. But do you think there's anybody else we could see involved in the running game? Because that was one of the areas that Minnesota struggled. They could not stop Purdue's quarterback when he was running a little bit on designed runs, nonetheless.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I think it's always there. Like if Dylan pulls it, that's at least something that once or twice a game, I wouldn't hate it. Like it just to put it on film for later opponents that you have to respect it a little bit. It feels like too when he does that stuff, it just feels like he's more involved in the game. Like it's more of like an emotional type thing. I'm terrible at explaining this, but I would like to see it. I don't know. I think with the run game too. I mean, did you feel like they took a step forward last week, like offensive line wise? I mean, that they did some things that they can build on and take forward, because I don't know that there's anything specifically, but it just felt like they were a different group.
Didn't it feel like they were getting after it a little bit more in terms of the running?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like, I think the way that you would phrase it is that Nebraska was sort of getting downhill on Maryland a little bit, because it just felt like there was a little extra to it. Now, that all being said, once again, close yardage situations, short yardage situations, they're still not good enough in that regard. But I think between the 20s, they've been a lot better blocking and running the football than they probably get credit for.
That's fair. I'm just trying to I think you've seen kind of gradual improvement in a lot of areas for Nebraska. And I'm still trying to figure out if the running game is part of that group of kind of improving things with the offense.
Yeah, and then ultimately what the ceiling is for that group. All right. Well, before we let you go here, we want to tell you about an event that's going on Wednesday night at Cross Strain Brewing in Papillion. We will be Michael Bruntz, Mike Schaefer, myself, and Brian Christopherson will be joined by Grant Hansen, Nick Hanley of Walnut Media for a special event called Live Huskers on Tap, or Huskers Live on Tap. And it will be a event where you can get some great beers from Cross Strain Brewing, listen to some Nebraska talk as we kind of break down the first half of the season, get you prepared for the Minnesota game. I'm sure we're going to dive into a little Matt Rule talk, whatever else comes up there. There could be some other cross sports. Maybe Bruntz is going to talk a little fall baseball. Maybe we get that as well. There will be a food truck, some food vendors out there, some samples, some prizes. So kind of a cool event happening Wednesday night, Cross Strain Brewing in Papillion. So be sure to check that out. Be sure to check out Husker247.com. We have all your coverage for Nebraska with everything that is going on here as multiple sports are starting to cross over. I mentioned the fall baseball. You're going to have an exhibition basketball game. We got plenty of recruiting going on. And, of course, football, which drives it all. All of that can be found at Husker247.com. So, for Michael Bruntz, I'm Mike Schaefer. We'll catch you next time.